Good morning, my stitchy friends. It is Sunday morning. What is the date today? Let me see. October 24th. And I'm joining you today to talk a little bit about how to convert to diagonal stitching. So, if you are new, my channel name is The Needlebug, and my name is Karen, and I am The Needlebug. This is a channel about cross stitch. If you're new here, welcome, and I hope you find something that you like, and if so, please subscribe and check the bell so you get notification when I post a video. If you're one of my returning subscribers, thank you so very much. I really appreciate and love all of you. If you have not done so, please subscribe to my channel. I have quite a few people that watch probably on a regular basis and aren't subscribed. So if you subscribe and tick the bell, you will get notification of when I post a video. So today, I've had many people ask about converting their project to diagonal stitching. So I thought I would do a little bit of a demo on how to do that today. And as you can see, this piece I've done, let me move it over a little bit too. I've done a lot of color completion, and I think I want to go back to diagonal on this piece. So it's a great point at the stitching to talk about how to do that and show all of you. So I know a lot of you, or many people, are visual learners. So how about that you grab your favorite beverage and your stitching, and we will get started. So the first thing you look at is, oh wow, I got stitches all over the place. What do I do? Well, we know diagonal stitching, of course, is on the diagonal. So if you use Pattern Keeper, which I do, and I'm going to move this out of the way for a second so that we can look at my tablet and look a little bit at, let me get it in, here we go. Look a little bit at Pattern Keeper. Okay, now most of you, I believe, know how to use this. I know I've had questions on what to do, so let's just do a quick review so that, okay, pardon me while I jostle you around. This arrow up here, okay, some of you may or may not know that that hides and unhides your color and symbol list. So if I tap on that, I get my colors back, and I can see how many stitches I have left of each color. If I tap on it again, it goes away. If I pick a color, it will display the color up in the top right hand corner. Okay, so oops, we're gonna do away with that for now. But I also like to hold my tablet in a landscape mode so that I can see more, get you straight here, more of the blocks. Okay, and we can see here that I was really kind of all over the place. So we want to convert to diagonal. First thing you do is, let me get up here so you can see, tap this little wheel. And that takes you into settings where all your settings, I'm making myself a little seasick here, pardon me. All my settings are in this. So if we want to change it to diagonal, we're going to scroll down underneath the part that says lines. There we go, part that says lines. If you want to stitch by your page breaks, you can do that. If you want to stitch by, you want your center marks, you can do that. And here's diagonal lines. Okay, so we click on that, or we tap on that. You can make your lines go upper left, so that would be up here, down to the bottom right. Or You can make your lines go the lower left, which would be down here, to the upper right. So I like my lines lower left to upper right. So I'm just going to move all the way over to this other side and click that button. And here, underneath that, I can choose my color that I want them marked in. So I like to have them a dark red, but you could tap on that and change that color to anything you want. You know, you can make them purple, you can make them blue, yellow, orange, and whatever color you tap, you get a range of colors within that color. Okay, so even if I want to make them orange, I get a range of colors within the orange. So let's just try that and see. I'm going to go with this one and see if it makes a difference, or if it's easier to see. So once you have that, then you just tap on select, and then that takes you back to this screen. You hit the back arrow, you're back to settings, you hit the back arrow again, and you're back to your chart. And as you can see, the diagonal lines are there. Okay. Now I am going to put them to red because I think red is a bit easier to see. Oops. At least for me anyway. I'm going to go to that red and make them really dark. Okay. So there, I think you can see them a bit better. So we see where my diagonal lines are. And if you note, let's make this bigger now, to make your screen bigger, and then you're going to lose part of your chart, but that's okay because we want it big for where we're stitching. I have some stitches to complete. Let's do it this way. In this diagonal, they're not all filled in yet. Okay. Down here's another one. Down here's another one. So since these are very few in this diagonal that need to be stitched, I'm going to first of all move right over to this diagonal, this next diagonal. And I'm going to work on here, and as I work and fill in this diagonal, I'm going to include these stitches here from the previous diagonal. So you can see I also have one up here at the top, but I'm going to catch those when I do the next diagonal because I believe those colors are also used, pardon me, over there. So basically that's how you get started. You mark your diagonal lines. If you're working on paper, use a ruler, mark your diagonal lines with a color pencil or something that you're going to be, you're going to be able to see, okay? And then it is just a matter of filling in those unstitched stitches until you get to a straight line. Or I still highly recommend doing some feathering. If if I'm working over here and we can see this diagonal line goes right along here, okay? But there's some stitches in this next diagonal. I might pick up a few of them. When I do this color, the box with the diagonal lines in it going the other direction, there's 1, 2, 3 right here at the diagonal line. I might stitch all those 3 just to feather it a bit, just to hopefully avoid getting lines. I know diagonal stitching is supposed to be helpful in not getting lines. However, I had very faint ones in my stitcher's retreat. So that and other people have gotten lines. So that kind of taught me a lesson to feather. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do for demonstration purposes for you so that you can all follow along and see what we're doing here. And let me get this back in the right place again. Here we go. I'm going to, where is it? Here it is. Use my Bohin mechanical pencil. Okay. Oh, goodness. I'll never get this right. It's a mechanical pencil. Has green lead. Well, it's not lead. It's ceramic chalk. And yes, it does wash out. In fact, many, many times it rubs off before you even get a chance to stitch that area. But they are available on Amazon or your local Joann's, or there's many places that you can buy them. But any kind of pencil that uses ceramic chalk will work fine and it will wash out. Bohin just happens to be the one that I have. But just to give us an idea, I'm going to mark on here that diagonal line of the diagonal that we're going to fill in. Some people find it helpful, some people don't need it. It's up to you whether you do this or not. You certainly don't have to. So I'm going to, the other thing I want to mention about that is it's easiest to know where you are if you have your diagonal line intersecting your blocks. Okay, so don't make your diagonal line here in the middle. Make your diagonal lines here through the intersection of the blocks. Okay, so I'm going to mark, I have this a little high so I can see the camera. All right, mine here. Okay, get those out of the way. There we go. Oh, all right, let's go down here a little bit. Okay. I'm going to mark this one and then try and follow it all the way down through, but just so I have a general idea. And then it's going to come up here and up here. Okay. This one I'm going to mark. And this is just to give you a general idea of where that diagonal line is going to be. So just follow your chart and mark them. Well, that's a little hard to see. Can you see it better that way? Okay, let me try and make them a little darker. Okay, but you get the idea. Okay. Okay. Gives you a general rule of thumb of where to start stitching. So up here for me today, this is going to be relatively easy because it's just basically one color. Now, I have always been a fan of parking, and parking is fine, and I do have a couple threads parked right here. Okay, because I was working down the column, but I decided that that's not exactly what I want to do anymore, or today. You know, you guys know me, I change my mind all the time of which way I want to stitch or which way I prefer to stitch, or I'm forever flipping back and forth, and I guess I do that because it keeps life interesting. Okay, so what I'm going to work on today, or what I'm going to look at today is, since I'm not going to park, I like to stitch the color with the least amount of stitches first. And yes, there is a reason for that, because I'm going to carry my thread from one stitch to the next. So there may be a jump or there may not be a jump. And what I want to be able to do is stitch over those thread carries. Okay, so I'm going to stitch, let me show you, see if I can show you here. Okay, there we go. I'm going to stitch the highlighted ones first. Let me do this and you can see, because that is the color with the lesser number of stitches in the diagonal. Okay, zoom it back out. Okay, and for those that are still learning Pattern Keeper, I like to keep my area that I'm working on rather large, because that makes it easier to see at a glance. You're working in one area, it's not necessary to see the whole chart, and when you've filled in that area, you just, make it smaller, see where the color goes, and then fill in the next area. So let me get my spectacles here so I can see, and figure out where I'm going to start, which would be right about here. Okay, I gotta bring my chair up because I'm down too low. There we go. Okay, that's better. Thank goodness for chairs that get higher and lower. Okay, so this is how I'm going to start this, with a little away thread. Okay, I'm going to come up, leave a little bitty tail, go down, come back up. Now what I do is just pull that tail under, and there we go. Okay, and like I said, I'm going to carry my thread to where I need to go, because my next color is going to cover all these thread carries. And I have found that one would think it might, but it really doesn't get as thick as what you think it does. I kind of gave up parking. Not that I totally dislike it, because that's not true. I think parking has a time and a place. And as I've said before in videos, your piece dictates, I think, your piece dictates the way it wants to be stitched. Okay. But I found that by basically doing cross country within your diagonal works best for me. I was getting very frustrated with having to rethread my needle every couple stitches. And I really found that doing it this way, color completing within a diagonal, work the best. And again, you guys, each one of you will find a way that works best for you. And that's what you go with. You know, my way is not necessary. Oh, I missed a stitch. So look at this. I'm going to sneak back up there. Wait a second here. Okay. I forgot to cross that one. Oh, it was actually in another diagonal, but I forgot to cross it, so I'm going to cross it now. See how we just jump willy-nilly sometimes? Okay, that's okay. And I did those. I'm going to mark them. And that happens to be all there. So I'm going to go down here. And yes, that's going to leave a bit of a longer carry on the back. Had I been doing the diagonal and not worked cross country, that would not be the case. But till we get this all going and get through this little part in here, that may happen. What I will need to do is, when this is all done and I go to iron it or wash it and iron it, I just have to be careful that the tip of my iron does not catch in those threads. And then sometimes you have to stop and figure out where exactly you are. I did that one. Okay, did that one. There should be 3. Okay, right here. Okay. Now this project is in the library. So I plan on doing a video this week, and we'll do the tally of what people voted for that I stitch on, and I'm gonna try and do a rotation. That's going to be a little interesting. Okay, so I'm gonna end this thread. Actually, to end this thread, I am just going to bring it to the front, and I will stitch over it. So I'm just going to leave a little bitty tail here so that I know that's one to be stitched over. So in this top part, in this part up here, I only have one color to fill in. So I'm going to move back up to the top. I'm going to highlight that color. And where did I? All right, I thought I had a thread laying out, but I must have misplaced it. Yeah, that happens a lot. How many of you do that? Pull a color, lay it down till you do something else, and when you come back for it, you can't find it. And then you find it later. Story of my life. Okay. So, the rest of this diagonal is all going to be filled in with the same color. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay. And I'm going to at least do that much for this video to give you the idea, or give you, show you the concept of what you're doing is just basically filling in, marking your diagonals. If you need to mark them on your fabric as well as on your chart, that's all fine and good. You can certainly do that. It will help you know where you are, and you'll gradually see it become filled in, and eventually you will get to where you have a straight, or depending how much you feather, somewhat straight line along the edge. Now over here, this is the edge of my pattern. So I'm going to diagonal over to the edge of my pattern, and then I'm going to drop down and do another, I don't know how many rows I did here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rows. So that would be about, I believe, not quite a page. So now we'll drop down. So, and really with Pattern Keeper, I don't worry about pages. It just all runs together. It's one big chart. So I try to think of it as, no, I do think of it as one big chart, and I'm just moving around within that chart. Now, looking at this, or I should say, looking at my tablet that has Pattern Keeper on it, I really wish the diagonal lines would be a bit darker to make them easier to see. Now, okay, where I probably made a mistake is I have my highlight color as red and my diagonal line as red, so that's not helping my situation at all. I really should probably change that. But I hope this is giving you the idea of how to convert. It sounds so simple to just say to people, oh, just mark your diagonal lines and fill in the stitches. And there are still people that, even though that is what you basically say to them, and there's nothing wrong with this, please. This is not a negative comment. There's nothing wrong with it. People still have questions. People learn differently. Some people can listen to instructions, they can hear them, and they can go out and they can execute them. That's all well and good. That's the type of learner they are. Some people are the type of learners where they need to see it. They need a demonstration. They need someone to show them. And then they can go do it after someone has shown them. And then there are people that is that oh, okay. There are people that they need to see it. They need to have someone with them when they try and execute it to make sure. They need that verification that, yes, I'm doing it correctly. And then they're able to go out and execute it on their own. So, there's many different learning types out there, and there's many methods of teaching. I think we need to teach to the skill of the person. Well, not skill, that's not the word I want, but we need to teach to that person in a manner that they can understand. So that's why I try very hard to make things, less complicated, pretty much step by step. This is how you do it. And I really have to emphasize that there is no right or wrong way. There's not. It's your way. What I'm showing you is my way. Not everybody does it this way, and that's okay. I have changed my ways, as most people that you guys that have been following me since the beginnings of all of this know that I have changed my way and flopped around my way many, many different times. When I first started this channel and started showing people how I stitched, I was very much into diagonal, parking. Don't cross that line. Heaven forbid that you cross that diagonal line. Oh my God, you can't do that. I was very much into that. But as time has progressed, and you watch videos of other people, you see how other people have done things, how they're accommodating things, and you say to yourself, gee, I think I'd like to try that. I wonder if that could work for me. I think I did miss 2 stitches here. See, I have a hard time seeing exactly where my line is because I have red and red. I'll have to change that. But I do know that the rest of this gets all filled in with this color, so it's not anything crucial. And yes, sometimes I stitch two-handed and sometimes I stitch one-handed. So, but again, there's no right, there's no wrong. It's your way. And we've discussed that many, many, many times. And I am a very big proponent of you do you. As you're probably guessing here, I'm normally a 1x at a time stitcher. But what did you just see me do? You saw me do the first leg all the way across, and now I'm going back and crossing it. Again, another experiment. And this is a point I want to make. When I read the groups, I read like the Heaven and Earth group or the full coverage fanatics or any of the groups that pertain to full coverage, oftentimes what I see is people saying, oh, on my next, excuse me, I need a drink here. On my next new start, I'm going to try this method or that method or something different than what they've been doing. Now, I wouldn't necessarily want to mix, for example, full cross and 10 stitch. That would not be my first choice to switch to. But you can mix different techniques. Okay? For example, here's the prime example. Cross country by color. Done that. Oh, I want to try this method of diagonal stitching. I'll convert my piece to diagonal. Or I want to try stitching 10 by 10 blocks on the diagonal. Convert your piece. You can do that. You don't have to wait to start a new piece to try a new method. Seriously, your front, no matter what method you choose, the front of your work, oops, I unthreaded my needle. Oh, I hate when that happens. The front of your work is going to look the same no matter what method you use. It's all going to look the same. You're not going to be able to tell what method of stitching you used. The only way you're going to be able to tell is to look at the back. On the back, you're going to see, oh yeah, here's where I stitched in columns. Oh yeah, here's where I stitched cross country. Sure, this is where I stitched on the diagonal, because it is going to make your back look different. But seriously, does that really matter? Your back's covered up in the framing. No one, speaking of back, I gotta adjust my chair here again. No one is ever going to know what method you stitched where by looking at your piece after it's framed. They're not going to know that. So if you want to experiment with different methods of stitching, go right ahead and do that. There's nothing that says you can't. And last time I checked, the stitching police weren't out there. I haven't seen one in years. They're nowhere to be found. The only stitching police that I know of are the restrictions that you impose on yourself. Whatever you're telling yourself in your head that you can't do or that you must do it this way, that's the stitching police. So you are only limited by the limitations that you set for yourself. So think about that. Think about that a little bit. You know, what limitations do you impose on yourself? You know, seriously, you read the groups, you ask a question in the group, somebody gives you an answer, or people give you answers, and oops, depending on the question, if there's 20 comments, you might have 20 different answers. But what are those answers? Think about that. Those answers are that particular person's own thought, whether it is a limitation, whether it is go for it, do what you want when you want. That's the opinion of just that person and what they do or do not impose upon themselves. Now, we all know there are people, and again, this is just a statement. This is not to be a derogatory comment or anything like that. We know that there are people that firmly believe that this is the way it has to be done. No matter what, you got to do it this way. As well as the other end of the spectrum, there are people that firmly believe, hey, yeah, well, it doesn't matter. Do what you want. Nothing matters, and there's everything in between. So again, those answers are just the opinions of one person or a number of persons who have many different opinions. So stop and think. Stop and think. And this lesson became very prominent with me when I was still working. Okay, and I worked in several long-term care facilities throughout my career. Well, several, two. However, in any state, the federal regulations and the state regulations they each have their own set of regulations. But it is the same when you go from facility to facility. Okay? So if this facility down the road has to comply with the regulations, this facility 2 towns away has exactly the same regulations. Okay? But what became outstandingly clear to me and really made me helped me to understand the concept of there are many, many paths to the same end result. Okay? So in this facility down the road, the things that I had to do to comply with Regulation A was one set of procedure. I moved to another facility, had the same Regulation A, but the things they did to comply was different. So take that, apply it to your needlework. So for me, the way I get things stitched and things done may not be the same as someone else who say they're even working on the exact same project. But it may not be the same as the way Joanne gets hers done. But we both get the same end result. We both get a beautiful picture in the end. So, folks, it just reinforces there's no right way. There's no wrong way. It's just the way you do it. So just think about that. And if you want to try a new technique on the same piece, try it. There's nothing wrong with that. Not a thing at all. Just give it a go and see what happens. As I said, the only right way is the way that is right for you. So, now that we got off on a little rabbit hole there, and scooted away from starting on the diagonal, I hope the information that I gave you enough confidence to say, okay, I can adapt my piece from, say, cross country to the diagonal. Because you can see here, now some of these stitches were already in, so they're over the line, but you can see that that diagonal line is starting to form. And the closer I get, well, you probably won't see a totally straight line on this top edge, but the closer I get, the pardon me, the straighter that line will become. And then when I move down to the parts underneath this, I'll have that straight line. Okay, so I hope this was helpful to you, to those of you who want to convert your piece from whatever technique you're using to diagonal, whether it be having that straight line, whether it be diagonal blocks. And if you're going to do diagonal blocks, okay, you just would, I'll go over here, you just would finish filling in whatever block is at the top. We'll assume this is the top, or let's assume this one's the top. Okay, we would finish that one 10 by 10. We'd drop down to this next one, complete that 10 by 10, drop down to the next one, fill in that 10 by 10, and keep working, filling in your 10 by 10 blocks as you go. Again, the only way is your way. So with that, my friends, I am going to end this video. I hope you all have a wonderful remainder of your weekend. You know, it's just going on noontime here in Pennsylvania, so there's a little bit of the weekend left yet, so I'm going to work on my stitching, probably most of the day today, and see how far we can get on the library. I really can't wait to get down to this girl. I really can't wait. But it will come in time. And on my next video, we will tally up the votes for what 4 projects I should rotate and see how that goes. So all of you have a great rest of your weekend. Have a wonderful Sunday. Stay healthy. Find your joy. And I will see you all next time.